Does doing the right thing come at the cost of business performance? Can ethics and profit coexist? Welcome to the Human Conversation podcast. Join host Kaumadi Gowda for candid conversations with industry luminaries as we navigate the maze of decision-making in today's global workplace. Each episode offers a window into the minds of leaders achieving remarkable outcomes while balancing diverse priorities and stakeholders. Tune in for thought-provoking insights and actionable strategies on leading with ethics every day. Because in the pursuit of excellence, integrity matters.
Our guest today is Martin Koek. Martin began his career in tax law after earning his master's degree from Leiden University, quickly establishing himself at Arthur Andersen and later Deloitte. Over 3 decades, Martin built a distinguished international career, rising to lead corporate income tax compliance practices in the Netherlands and later managing cross-border operations from Hyderabad for both the Dutch and UK firms. Known for his steady leadership and sharp analytical mind, Martin operated at the intersection of complexity and clarity in high-stakes environments. After stepping away from his corporate career in 2022, Martin took time to reset and reflect, immersing himself in reading, travel, and a broader exploration of what meaningful work looks like beyond titles and timelines. This period led him to coaching, having completed his formal education in 2026. He now brings his depth of experience, thoughtful perspective, and calm presence to support professionals navigating career transitions, leadership challenges, and questions of purpose. His practice is grounded in real-world insight and a genuine commitment to helping others move forward with clarity and confidence. Welcome, Martin. A very warm welcome to you, Martin. I have been looking forward to our conversation. How are you, Martin?
Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Martin, you've had such an incredible international career as a corporate leader, advisor, mentor, just to name a few. Is there a red thread that ties all of this together for you? I wanted to know, what's the driving force behind all that you do?
It's a good question, and to be honest, up till recently, I never thought about it because I think, especially during my school years and university years and my early years within corporate business, everything went smoothly. And only recently, when things started to go not so smoothly anymore, I was thinking about, okay, what really interests me and what ties everything together. And I come up with 2 things. One thing is that I like to solve puzzles and find my way or other people's way out of difficult situations. And I like to help people. Perhaps not in the altruistic way, but at least in a professional way. So that is the red thread that binds everything together.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's such a comforting thing to hear someone who's very successful, clearly very wise, to share that actually I didn't think about some of these things until much later in my career, and that a lot of times it can be that you are following an internal process, some sort of an organic flow. You don't quite look back and connect the dots until later. It makes it approachable that oftentimes imposter syndrome for people stems from thinking everybody else has got it sorted in their heads except you. But
Yeah,
not everyone
and
does.
it's difficult because I did so many different things. So in the beginning of my career, it was about helping clients managing the tax burden. Later on, it became also mentoring of younger colleagues. It became development of the organization as a whole. And then it's rather difficult to find the right thread. But it always focused around helping people solving problems or helping organizations solving problems.
Beautiful. I shared with you in the past that I think a leader like you is a rare species in the corporate world where it's often loud leadership that's very aggressive and very task focused. And you've always come across as a person who has prioritized respect, kindness towards others, and leading with values. And so, in that context, and knowing that you have a compliance, ethics, taxation background yourself, what do the terms ethics and integrity mean to you, Martin?
That's a difficult question. And if I answer that as a member of corporate leadership, I think ethics and integrity are the greatest assets that a leader can have. And the difficulty is how to apply those things in the real everyday life of a leader. And I think I've made my share of mistakes, especially as a starting leader, where I realized at one time that I was focusing way too much on reliability and responsibility. I realized that uh, in my vacation, uh, where I received lots of telephone calls of team members who were trying to solve problems, but didn't think that they had the authority themselves to solve the problem. So they always came back to me. And those were actually quite horrible things. And uh, after I was a team leader for a couple of years, the team needed to change the strategic direction. And I sat down with a consultant to make a SWOT analysis. And from that SWOT analysis, uh, an action plan had to follow on, okay, this is the direction that we are taking. Uh, the necessary steps that we had to take, practical steps to make that change. And I was looking at the chart that we made and I thought, oh my God, this is really a lot. How am I, as a responsible and reliable leader, how am I going to do that? And I consulted some other leaders on how they would approach it, and we came up with a solution that we should involve the entire team. So much more focusing on transparency and honesty. And I did the entire exercise that I did with the consultant, with the team. So I shared the SWOT analysis and said, okay, are there any items that you miss, or do you see any items that are wrong in this analysis? And the team had a look at it. We had a discussion about it for 4 or 5 hours. And then for the next 1.5 days, we made the action plan on what we had to do to make this strategic change. And to my big surprise, 90% of the action plan that the team made was the same as the plan I made with the consultant. But the action steps that we had to take were much more complete than I had made together with the consultant. So what I learned from that exercise is that by being transparent and honest about the future of the team was actually thinking about solutions and action steps to take together with me. But it made the team less reliable from me. And it also created a much more open atmosphere where everybody could share their ideas, could share their doubts, their concerns. Uh, and we solved everything together. And what I envisaged as a huge struggle to change the direction of the team actually became a quite pleasant exercise because I had the buy-in of everybody. and everybody took up their share of what we had to do to make the changes. And that was a huge lesson for me, uh, learning that also to show my own vulnerabilities and my own doubts, that as a team together, we came out much stronger than before.
Powerful. Looking back, what was it, do you think, that helped the team make that change when you recommended it?
I think that involving the team and knowing that their views and their recommendations are also appreciated, and I by myself also do not know, create an atmosphere that we're really going together to make the change, to make everything happen.
In the milieu you operated from, it was not normal. It is normal here in Netherlands, where you're from, to have a more flat structure and not hierarchical. But oftentimes you worked with people who were from all over the world. In Asia, for example, where I know some of the talent you worked with was, it is very hierarchical. So did you
Yeah.
face any resistance or hurdles from others in the environment who are used to hierarchy and couldn't understand why you're going against the grain and trying to do something different?
Well, especially in because I was much more experienced when I went to Asia. Um, I learned quite soon that although the society and also a lot of corporations in Asia are hierarchical, full, difficult word. Hierarchy is very important in those countries and those organizations. People hate it. So when I came in and started asking input from the team and involving them in the day-to-day basis, other than just doing the regular job, but also give them an insight in why we were doing things and that we also needed to make changes. They were all quite happy to give me their input, and more or less I could work with them in the same way I was used to working in the Netherlands.
What I really enjoy about our conversations is the candidness with which you share your thoughts, and I find that this absolute truth and integrity to it. We're talking about the terms of ethics and integrity, and what I received from you, tell me if I got this correctly. You're saying that you got a sense of what was working and what was not. That informed you what was appropriate and what needs to be changed. And in making those changes, not only did you seek the input and invite the active solution making with all of your team members, but you're also able to demonstrate that it doesn't matter if no one else gets it, this works for us. And that's why this makes sense. So you got the input, got the buy in from everyone in your team, and you co actively built it together. And that's how ethics and integrity were informed by practical observation, but also by solutioning along with others. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
It's
So
such a
I
wonderful way to approach this.
yeah, but it didn't come easy for me. I made my mistake, but in the end, I've learned that integrity, integrity from a leader leads also to integrity from the team. So, and the same for ethics. If you are an ethical leader, you also get ethical team members. And of course, there are always exceptions, but the broader line is that it is vice versa thing. Ethical leaders lead to ethical teams. Integrity leads to integrity.
You mentioned that you made mistakes. Or is there any that you feel comfortable sharing so we can learn from what lessons you took away from it? Like, I'm assuming you're referring to mistakes that helped you clarify and fine tune what your ethics are, what your values are. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, well, I know you have an HR background,
Yeah.
and I think you can resonate on this with me. In the evaluation process, there's nothing easier than doing evaluation conversation with a good performer. You always have a nice open atmosphere. Both parties at the table are willing to share their thoughts, and everybody leaves the room at the end of the conversation feeling happy. But then you have the conversation with the bad performer. And since most leaders are nice people, or at least want to be perceived as nice, uh, evaluation conversations with bad performers are often of a very bad quality. And with bad quality, I mean that the evaluator wants to soften the blow. And the evaluator is certainly not telling the bad performer that the performer is really bad. We try to hide it a little bit and say, this is not the end of the world. If you do this and this, you can perform better. But what we are actually doing is hiding the message, leave the bad performer hanging, leaving the bad performer with a feeling of uncertainty. So along the way, I've learned that it is much better to not soften the blow and just tell at the beginning of the conversation, your performance is not up to standard. This and this and this is what we see going wrong. But then make the conversation more open and actually listen to the person in front of you on what he or she is struggling with, why the performance is at the level it is, and then you can actually help that person going forward. So either this person can tell you, I do not feel comfortable in this organization. I want to do something else, and you can help this person look for another job or try to determine what is the right job for him or her. Perhaps even within the organization you're currently working in. And by listening, you can also determine, okay, there is room for growth. And when you listen to the needs of the other person, and really help the person taking the next step, the conversation is suddenly not closed and tense anymore, but it's open and you're trying to build on something. And I think that's also a part of ethics. It's morally wrong to soften the blow. It's ethically right to start with the bad message, but also being open to the input of the person in front of you.
Beautiful. I'm hearing that.
That's really difficult.
It is.
Because we don't like to give bad messages.
100%. And oftentimes, I love that you're drawing a clear distinction between goodness and niceness, what is morally correct, and doing the right thing, showing respect and compassion towards another person, versus just optics and making it pretty for yourself, for your own comfort, so it does not get awkward. In fact, that's not doing a kindness towards somebody else. By being nice and trying to put pretty flowers over a difficult situation is not being good towards someone. That's an important distinction because they get conflated all the time. People try to avoid discomfort Especially, it's a very common HR trope, isn't it, Martin? The
Hmm.
sandwich
Yeah.
method. Say something good and then insert sneakily one piece of feedback and then say something good again so that it's almost not noticed. Well, it's confusing to people receiving
Yes.
that feedback.
Yes. And you're not helping the person in front of you. You're not helping the team, and you're also not helping yourself.
That's an excellent example of you figured this out by trial and error. The your sense of value was about respect and kindness towards others and doing the right thing by your team, and you fine-tuned this understanding by noticing that being nice versus doing the right thing in certain situations is actually in
Yes.
fact morally not correct. And that's how you fine-tune and figured out your flavor of ethics and integrity.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I also wanted to ask your take on what are some of the real world ethical problems that are most relevant to business leaders today? What are your observations around that?
Well, there are a lot, but I want to focus on one thing, uh, and it has again to do with the people aspect of this. So when I compare my situation at the beginning of my career with where we stand now, is that at the beginning of my career, um, I had a feeling of freedom. I could do whatever I wanted within certain boundaries. But over the years, we wanted to make the world makeable. We wanted to have more influence. So we started measuring a lot of things like output. We started measuring the number of hours spent on a project compared with the projected number. Uh, we started modeling a lot, standardizing a lot. And although I am the first to recognize that modeling and that standardization and measuring output brought us a lot, it also harms us. And I feel that we focus too much on the standardized model, and we focus too much on output, and we focus too little on the uniqueness that every employee brings to the organization. We try to mold everybody into the model. And if I read about the number of people who are suffering burnout, I think that we have to take a step back and uh, reassess the situation we are in, and give some more attention to the uniqueness of our employees, and that so that they do not get stuck in models that other people design.
That's a really thoughtful and an unusual take on it. I'm intrigued by it. What I notice is the race for innovation, the race for maximizing engagement, leveraging your existing workforce to get the maximum productivity and therefore maximum performance and profitability. That seems to be the end game. Indeed, I agree with you. It is just a tailspin, right? It just goes out of control and is not effective. But what's the alternative to that? I cannot imagine attempting to convince or persuade any organization today in what is feeling like challenging economic times around the world, Martin, to persuade them to say, slow down and focus on slow exploration, patient exploration for what is possible when you harness all the innovation that your talent is capable of. Mostly they're like, go, go, go. This is crunch time, it's survival time. What's the smallest number of people I can squeeze out for maximum performance, for maximum profitability? How can we begin to persuade organizations? What's the business case for it?
I think the business case for it is that if we listen more to each other, what works on the models and what doesn't work, eventually get to a situation that the models are not set in stone anymore. Because quite often we design something and that works, but circumstances change. So if circumstances change, you should also redesign the model. And then people feel much more at home.
I love that answer. Um, and you can see how even when there is a push, you are quite steadfast in how you see the rightness of how something can play out. Um, there is a Martin Luther King quote that I recently came across, Martin, that I think is appropriate. He advises that faith is about taking the first step, even if the staircase is not clear to you yet. This is what I'm sensing from you right now is you're saying there's a right way and a better way to do it, which is to respect what people around you are capable of. And if we slow down and listen, surely better models will emerge. And that is you saying, let's put faith in that and take that first step forward, even if the replacement models are not clear yet. You are sure they will emerge with time
Yeah,
and working together. That's a beautiful
yeah,
thought.
and sometimes it's just a little bit of a tweak to the existing model. Uh, but you quite often see that there is a group of people coming in an organization. They This is the way we go forward. They design a model, they train people, and then they go live. And after 1 month, they say, "Okay, you're done with this," and they go away. And more often than not, 5 years later, those people are back again because it doesn't work or it doesn't work anymore. Um, in my time in Asia, we also designed. Uh, Due to my experience, I mentioned, okay, it is fine, we implemented it, we think it's a success, but every 3 months, the project team is coming together and gets input from the team on is it still working or do we need to tweak so that it is not all set in stone. And in that way, it becomes much more durable to keep working in that way because everybody feels hurt, and when change is needed, we make the change.
Beautiful. And building upon that, Martin, what is your advice to professionals on how to build these cultures of integrity in their teams and organizations as they grapple with competing priorities? And that's what I notice is the challenge is we discussed earlier about challenging hierarchies and how that is possible. We're thinking about working models and how small tweaks and even newer models are possible if we slow down, listen to each other and work together. But there are also, the constraints, scarcity of time, clients' demands, and what is the right solution is it depends on the perspective. Are you looking at it from the perspective of the partner in charge of the project, or the project manager, or the client, or the team members? So those competing priorities can sometimes just paralyze a decision maker on what's the right decision. Given all this, what's your advice to professionals on how to build cultures of integrity in their teams and organizations?
Uh, I have been thinking about that for a very long time, and only recently, uh, I'm following a course to become a coach. I came to the answer that I already knew, uh, but um, where other people already thought more about than I did. Um, and I think the first thing that um, the team you have to do is make sure that everybody is included. And that means that you must have open communication line where people really listen and understand each other's expectations and needs and wishes. Um, and if there is a clear understanding of expectations and wishes, especially on things that work very well, but also on things that do not work, um, then there is an understanding of what needs to change and what can stay the same. Um, and it's also openness leads to openness. So if the leaders show that they're open to ideas from the team, um, it makes life a lot easier for leaders as well as leaders that share their ideas with the team and actually listen to the input that the team has. I think, secondly, um, the team needs to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities, and actually pick up their roles and responsibilities, and that it is clear that everybody knows what they are doing, and also monitor that everybody is picking up their roles and responsibilities. Because there understands or a disbalance will occur when someone is not picking up their respective roles and responsibilities. And I think, lastly, there should be a balance in the give and take. So by saying that, I mean that employees give their time and capabilities to the employer, and they want to have something in return, which is basically the salary and some vacation days. Employers may want from time to time have an increase in productivity because it's a busy season. Um, and as long as there is some reward for the employee, it's okay. But when there is a disbalance in the additional demands from the employer, employees will start thinking, okay, this is not really ethical because they are expecting much more from me as a year ago. And there's nothing wrong with that imbalance, but if that sticks around and stays for a longer period of time, employees will start acting unethical. Like they will report a little bit more sickness because they think that they are giving more than that they are getting from it. So I think those three items, when there is a balance, and I know it's never 100% perfect, but if there is, if everybody is included, everybody feels included, if everybody takes up their roles and responsibilities, and when there is a balance, a long-term balance in the give and take, that those are excellent ingredients to build a team culture that is both ethical as well as that it has integrity.
That's a fantastic blueprint. Particularly, the third point is resonating so hard with me right now because I noticed that imbalance has been feeling more exacerbated these days with stories of people by the thousands getting laid off around the world because organizations are seeking to improve productivity. The AI hype is so high. The conversation is around, well, AI can do the same job faster. How can we make these certain functions, certain job roles AI empowered? Not just using AI to enhance, but actually replacing human beings with AI. When organizations are prioritizing productivity and performance over employee well being, then I can definitely see that imbalance being very high. Do you have any advice for professionals, either mid career or senior, who are now fearing what is the future of their career paths with AI coming in so extensively? Or advice for people who are going to graduate and are looking to joining the workforce soon around how to navigate this age of AI?
Well, it's a difficult question, uh, which brings me back to my youth, uh, back in the end of the 70s and early 80s. No, I think actually until the end of the 80s, there was a huge economical crisis in Europe. Uh, and my generation was then qualified as the lost generation because most certainly there wouldn't be any jobs for us when we finish school. Um, in that period, you saw a lot of layoffs in factories where robots were taking over the jobs of human beings. Um, But ever since I started working, and it was the beginning of the 90s, uh, we have, at least in my line of business, we always had a shortage of people. And now with the upcoming of AI, yeah, those jobs uh, are getting into danger, and indeed, a lot of people are being laid off. But I think that in the end, like in the 80s, uh, alternatives will come up. And I don't know yet what kind of alternatives that will be, but they will come up. And perhaps in areas where we do not know about right now. And I think that all those companies laying off people should also really think about what they're doing. Because yesterday in the newspaper there was a piece about one of the big four companies that issued a report to a government, and apparently they relied too much on AI. And although the overall conclusion of the report didn't change, there were a lot of mistakes in the report that apparently was generated by AI. So we should also train our people on, at least for the foreseeable future, on how to check the report that AI made. And when I started my career, there was a saying that trust is good, but checking is better. So whenever I, as a junior wrote an advice on a client issue, uh, did not only have to hand in the advice that I wrote, but also all the literature I used uh, for writing the advice, so that the manager or the partner could check the validity of what I said. So we keep hiring people for the foreseeable future, at least, to check the outcome of the AI report. And checking something is much more difficult than creating something. So, but still, jobs will go lost because of AI. But although I do not have the answer right now, I am certain that alternatives will come up.
That's a fantastic example. I think in face of uncertainty, sometimes we can refer back to similar occurrences in history where the hurdles were overcome and solutions did emerge. And those are always great prototypes to refer back to. In law, we call that precedent, right? When we don't know which way to adjudicate, you can look back at how something similar was adjudicated in the past to inform us on how we could potentially look at something new. That's a great example. And indeed, the resilience of human effort and the um, agility, the fluidity of industry means that we can make a concentrated effort at shaping our future so that it can continue to benefit all people. That's really important. One of the things I've been reading about lately, Martin, is that AI slop is a big problem. That while we rely on some of these technologies, there's of course inherent biases that have been coded into um, these new technologies because they're only human, right? All the human error that we see in real life is also uploaded into these technologies. But in addition to the biases, also the output is not yet fully perfect. And therefore, our own bias, where we think if it's technology, it's more reliable, it's more accurate, it's more factual, doesn't always yield good results. That seems to be something that I notice is a challenge too. Organizations seeking to accelerate and amplify their results by heavy reliance of technology, and human beings similarly placing very high value and projecting great trust on technology. Do you have a take on that? Because I know the field that you actually specialized in was very interesting. Do you see, for example, taxation, the careers in taxation, for example, changing from human to more technology fueled?
Yeah. Um, I'm not working in taxation for the last 2 years now, but uh, also because of the shortage of people, uh, we started investing in technology quite early. Uh, in the beginning, just to get a more coherent product, uh, but nowadays also get the technology should help us in with simple tasks like preparing tax returns. 50% of the work is not tax related. It is just transferring data from one software product to the other software product. And if you have to do that manually, it's taking up a lot of time for the people you actually want to do more high-end work. Making an automatic transfer from the one data carrier to the carrier that we need to file tax returns on saves a lot of time. And I know that also like analytics, when there is a change in tax law, in the early years of my career, we had to get the paper files of all of our clients, and look at that specific situation and think, okay, does the new tax law affect this client, and do we need to take measures? Do we need to alert the client? Nowadays, we look at the new tax law and we run a check on all the tax returns to see if the new law affects this client. Basically, we put in the prompt in the evening, and then the computer analyzes all the tax returns during the night, and in the morning we have a list of clients who are affected by the new law. So, yeah, sure, it affects.
As always, a very pragmatic take. I love it. What I'm hearing from you is, in your observation, there's great benefits to using technology to make a process more efficient and to allow human beings to focus on more strategic tasks, higher level tasks, so that
Yes,
what can be automated and delegated and made more efficient, that can be done. And you're saying that's a good thing. In your observation, most organizations are practically and pragmatically, essentially, going that way anyway.
yes, but also be careful. A recent example of my recent life, I needed a book report for my coaching class, and I read the book and I thought it was a great book. But when you are starting to write your book report, you're just looking at a blank piece of paper or a blank computer screen, and it is very difficult to begin. So I thought, well, perhaps AI can help me a little bit. So I wrote a prompt to write a book report over this book, and well, within 20 seconds, I had a book report. I printed it out and started reading. I thought, okay, the beginning is very promising. But then the AI report started to discuss the content of every chapter. I read the book. I cannot remember I've read it. So was I that wrong? I said, okay, it's strange. In the book report, there are only 3 chapters, but there were 5 chapters in the book. So in the end, I only used the beginning of the AI report to get started, and wrote the entire report myself.
That's a
It
good
was
warning.
it was a great help to avoid staring at a blank piece of paper for an hour or so. At least I got started with the introduction, because that was great, but the rest I had to do myself.
That's right. I love that. It's practical and it's true. AI slop is a big problem. Getting a shoddy or poor work, or even in fact completely made up uh, pieces of information. That's a real problem. And what you're saying is, with your characteristic humor, hey, at least it gets you started. You see a bunch of
Yeah.
crap on the screen, you're like, that is wrong, and it helps you get started on doing it the right way. That's a great take. You mentioned that you've not been in taxation for the last 2 years. What excites you these days in terms of your professional pursuits?
Well, when I was thinking about what is the common denominator of what I've done in my career, I found out that it was helping people, and then I came by someone who actually is a coach and gave me the idea to become a coach, and you know that person very well. Uh, so I decided to take up a course to become a coach, uh, and enjoying that a lot, because I'm learning so much about myself. Uh, Things I knew, actually I can put in a new perspective right now, but also a lot of things about myself I don't know. Or I didn't know, I know now, because um, the course is a tremendous help in opening your blind spot. So I feel there's a much more complete Martin than there ever was before. And I enjoy having the coaching conversation quite a lot. It's uh, more or less the same as the mentoring conversations and coaching conversation I had with my junior colleagues within Deloitte. It's also quite different, because where I was actively helping people uh, um, solving their problems, at the moment I'm learning on not how to solve other people's problems, but how to bring other people to their own solution. Uh, that's difficult. It's challenging. And I get a lot of joy from it.
I can vouch for this. Having experienced what a wonderful mentor and boss you've been in the past, you bring that same listening and pragmatic, wise counsel with a wonderful informed coaching presence. One of the interesting things about coaching is a, a sector, it's a profession with interestingly low entry barriers. So you could be a dietitian, you could be a physical trainer, you could be a nutritionist, you could be physical wellness, so like a yoga, massage therapist. All of those folks can certainly call themselves coaches. And in all of that, the executive coaching with experienced leaders with real world managerial leadership responsibilities and experience. Those are tremendous assets for professionals grappling with career dilemmas, attempting to be good humans, good leaders, and navigate life in general. And so I have heard wonderful reports of people who have benefited from your coaching. So I can vouch that bring all of this gravitas and this beautiful compassion and sense of integrity into coaching, just as you did with mentoring and being a great boss, Martin. So, wish you all the best for this exciting new adventure you're on of coaching. Here's looking forward to many more wonderful insights from you from this new field that you're pursuing. I know you're also an avid reader, Martin. So, would you like to share a favorite book or quote with our listeners?
Yeah, I have read, well, about a year ago, a book called The Almond Tree by Michel Cohen-Corazanti. And it's just a beautiful story which gives you a lot of background on the situation in the Middle East. It starts back in 1955, and it brings you up almost up to present day. And basically it describes the story of a family, Palestinian family living in Israel, and how that family learns to live with the challenges that they face and also the choices that they make. It's an incredible, moving book, and it really gives an insight in what is going on there. And it's especially non-judgmental, and that's what I like about it. No one is judged for the way they act, but it is an objective, more or less objective story.
There's a book or a quote or a sentence that pops out at you from this book that you wanted to share?
Well, it's actually one of the first sentences in the book, and it's a quote from a rabbi, and it mentions, what you hate, don't do this to others. And that's a sentence that is with me now for about a year, and still makes a deep impression on me.
Oh, fantastic loop back to integrity and ethics. Do not do to others what you hate. That's a beautiful thought to close this conversation with. For those out there in the world who want to follow your work, engage with you more, or maybe even contact you for coaching help, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So if someone listening or looking at this podcast feels the need for one coaching hour, please contact me.
What a lovely and generous offer. Thank you so much, Martin. Really appreciate that. Continue your good work and look forward to inviting you back with more exciting insights. Thank you so much for our conversation today.
Thank you as well. I enjoyed it.
As we wrap up today's discussion on the human conversation on leadership and ethics, it's clear that integrity and ethics are the cornerstone of leadership. Host Kaumadi Gowda thanks you for joining us in this vital dialogue. Before you go, hit that subscribe button and become a part of the community dedicated to ethical leadership. Share your thoughts and continue the conversation with #TheHumanConversationPodcast.